Positive and negative atheism, skepticism, faith, non-being, and the ineffable. All too often in discussion, words are unclear, ill-defined, or simply used incorrectly, so that the topic under consideration is readily obscured and important determinations are covered over with no concern for subtle meanings that would otherwise clarify so many confusions. This is readily observed in recent popular theological conversations, debates, books, articles, and well-known podcasts and live streams from the perspective of atheists. There are two kinds of atheism, one positive, one negative. Neither holds the belief that God exists. The positive atheist, however, holds the belief that God does not exist. The negative atheist holds no such belief. Such metaphysical beliefs are logically, empirically, mathematically, even dialectically, indemonstrable and thus unprovable, thus grounding the positive atheist's position in a belief without justification or evidence, but mere trust in his unique ability to perceive the true nature of reality. The position is that of a metaphysical system grounded in faith. Negative atheism avoids accusations of a grounding in faith by declaring ignorance. Sufficient evidence is lacking, and so I am unable to justify any solid position with respect to God or gods. More rigorously, the subtle distinction between these two kinds of atheism can be described as follows. Positive atheism is a belief in the absence of theological entities. Negative atheism is the absence of belief in theological entities. In propositional terms, positive atheism commits to the proposition theological or supernatural entities do not exist. Negative atheism commits to no proposition concerning such theological or supernatural entities. Understood thus, positive atheism presents a peculiar paradox, claiming at once, I do not believe in God, and in the very next moment, God does not exist, with little concern for consistency or the nature of belief, truth, and logic. The function of such inconsistency is twofold. 1, to assert intellectual superiority, and 2, to provide a justified ground for the rejection, or more often hatred, of otherness, religion, Jesus, Christians, Muslims, Jews, etc. The nature of positive atheism, unlike its negative counterpart, is a positive assertion in that God does not and cannot exist. But since there is zero proof of God's non-existence, this assertion is merely belief without evidence or justification. It is held and rests upon only faith, nothing more. Positive atheism is no different from the systems of belief it challenges and accuses of unjustified anti-intellectualization. Grounded in faith and pushed to its logical conclusion, positive atheism is very much a religion, one that by observation is no less averse to alterity and committed to annihilation of all otherness, as the systems it rejects. Negative atheism sounds very much like agnosticism, yet they differ. While remaining uncommitted to any proposition concerning the existence of God, agnosticism does commit to a structurally similar epistemic proposition concerning the possibility of knowledge of God's existence. In short, the possibility of evidence of the existence or non-existence of theological entities like God is denied. And in similar fashion, the negative atheist remains unmoved, holding instead that there is no evidence to justify belief in the impossibility of evidence for or against entities like God. The negative atheist suspends judgment not in the way of a skeptic who declares knowledge is impossible or that God is dead, but simply awaiting further investigation, hence remaining open to further contemplation, inquiry, and dialogue. Proof might not be currently possible, but may with some effort be disclosed. Propositionally, agnosticism commits to the proposition evidence for God's existence or non-existence cannot exist. Negative atheism commits to no proposition concerning the existence of evidence concerning God's existence or non-existence. Unlike positive atheism, which hides the fact that it rests its assumptions upon faith, Negative atheism avoids the charge of being so self-inconsistent, internally self-contradictory, at least on the surface and with respect to commitments in belief towards God or gods. The same charge of faith can be leveled at agnosticism with respect to agnosticism's assumption that evidence for God cannot exist. Another faith-based claim, this time of an epistemic nature. Since negative atheism avoids an explicit statement that would require proof, it avoids the pitfalls of faith to which both its positive counterpart and agnosticism succumb. There exist paradoxes of reason in various logical and metaphysical inquiries, such as syllogistic reasoning, or propositional logics, and other kinds of logico-mathematical contradiction that are disclosed upon any interrogation of fundamental questions concerning the grounds of reality. In this negative space of pure paradox resides the ineffable perpetual object of metaphysical inquiry, an unspeakable nameless abstraction, infinity or contradiction. It is here that metaphysics locates a fundamental essence to existence. Here, and all the major religious, metaphysical, mystical, and esoteric schools agree, resides the fundamental essence of all existence and source of all meaning. Positive science does not, but even so, still retains its own peculiar metaphysic, one that retains its privileged geometry, devoid of meaning other than that found in number. Other systems also deny this ineffable, but only insofar as they deny and reject metaphysical knowledge or language, in favor of a logically positive form of inquiry. But even these systems run up against the wall of ineffability, not so strangely. As for dialectical reasoning of the idealist kind, there exists still, in my opinion, the promise of absolute revelation, a project that would unify every system of belief, knowledge, and understanding. Finally, concerning this ineffable, this nameless infinity without determination, it must be said, did not come into being by means of any human ingenuity. It came into being precisely prior to the creation of time itself, in the logical nexus that precedes becoming, and that this ineffable is the goal, meaning, and purpose of humanity. All this applies to recent popular theological conversations and debates involving Richard Dawkins, the late Christopher Hitchens, Sam Harris, and many atheists ready to take the stage and demonstrate their profound wisdom and courage in the face of a nihilistic emptiness of meaning. Finding meaning instead in the patterns and abstractions of Fibonacci or various other kinds of pure logical structure. I too find meaning of a certain kind in mathematical thought, often profound. But the point here is that these systems of knowledge draw the adherent into a corner of self-absorbed ignorance and love of one's own perfection. And yet, there is a strange and beautiful irony in the fact that the meaning of all this geometry too is ineffable. Without mediation, numbers have no intrinsic meaning. This is the source of many confused discussions by popular thinkers like the late Hitchens, Richard Dawkins, Stephen Fry, Sam Harris, and many others. No positive atheist can coherently claim, "The burden of proof lies not with me," while also claiming God does not exist. And this analysis shows that we can too easily take ourselves to be justified in our hatred, opposition, or simply the rejection of an otherness that we do not comprehend or are unwilling to engage. The grounds for this rejection of otherness are nothing more than the same ideological rejection of otherness that we have seen for millennia. Positive atheists, as described here, universally declare that the world would be better without religion, superstition, the supernatural, and the like, never suspecting of a moment that they themselves are acting out the very same hatred in such utterances as the kinds of wickedness they are denouncing, in one and the same utterance. We have pointed this out in this essay, but we can see it for what it is, by simply recognizing the fingerprint of contradiction and self-referentiality embedded in the kinds of statements and utterances they make every day. I hate religion. And if this is not enough, then at least in sentiment. Simple comprehension shows that to make the claim the world would be better without any kind of religion is about the most classically religious statement one could utter. I have focused simply upon one aspect of the discussion considered here, that of the distinction between kinds of atheism. There is much more in the thought of Dawkins and others that is unjustified. Don't get me wrong, there is much that is also justified, and I am not ridiculing them for their limited form of ignorance. Take, for example, Dawkins' claim that a negative cannot be proven, which is demonstrably incorrect. Or Ricky Gervais' claim that all religious thought is unrepeatable, and that only science is a repeatable cultural event, thus proving the truth of science. A little thought would demonstrate that metaphysical inquiry, no matter the time or place, would soon touch upon the ineffable, nameless, vacant, unchangeable source of being and non-being. I have attempted here only to demarcate the nature of two kinds of atheism, their respective commitments and pitfalls, nothing more. I am not arguing for the existence of God, nor am I suggesting that any belief system is more superior or closer to the truth than any other belief system. I remain a negative atheist, and my aim was only to clear away the confusion of terms in a very significant conversation that I believe requires and is capable of far greater clarity and care.